Hello, everyone. It's Maria Turner again from the Fond du Lac Area Women's Fund coming at you with another edition of Project Table Talk. This week, I'm joined once again with my co-hosts, Erin Flood and Kyle Jefferson, who are both members of our board of directors, as well as two guests today from the Children's Museum of Fond du Lac, Executive Director Andrea Welsch and Kelly Lamb. Today, we're excited to talk about the kits the Children's Museum was able to put together through funding from a grant from the Women's Fund, working with ASTOP Sexual Abuse Center on age-appropriate way to educate children and parents broaching the topic of sexual abuse. So with that, before we get going, I will mention here that we may discuss some things that may trigger some viewers. Please take the steps necessary if you feel you may be triggered by the subject matter. With that, big welcome to everyone today. And so, Andrea, we're just going to get right to it right away. This project came to light as part of the Children's Museum's most recent grant request to the Women's Fund. In light of all of the issues that were occurring in 2020, we encouraged the projects to address either something COVID related or something racial equity oriented, or a project that would align to the Fond du Lac Says No More initiative. So your project obviously aligns with Fond du Lac Says No More initiative. Can you start by telling us why you feel this type of project is important to the children and families that you serve at the Children's Museum?
Well, very great question, Maria, and thanks for inviting us on today. First of all, before we even dove into this project, we had a longstanding partnership with the Women's Fund on educating girls to give them more opportunities in the computer science related careers. And with the pandemic, much of that programming we could no longer do in the schools. So you had inspired us, along with some of your other grantees, to really be active and look around in the community and to see where we can help out and how we can serve children and families, and their grown-ups where they were at. And most of them were in their homes. Very, very early on in the pandemic, back in May, our museum families started saying, we need some educational hands-on fun stuff at home. Well, we're the experts in that in this community. So we thought, okay, there's got to be a way we can help out with this. We also heard a concern from our schools, our counselors, that they were concerned that with the extra time being spent at home and the extra stresses that were on parents and children, that might be the right combination for some toxic environments. And so how can we help out with that? And so we really took the idea of the educational fun kits. One of your board members called and said, this is a neat program. It was Anna Lemke. How can we expand it to something that might be financial literacy related, or might be even related to Fond du Lac Says No More? Now, obviously, financial literacy would have been an easier route, but with the encouragement, Maria, of yourself, and thank you for connecting us with ASTOP and our friends over at Agnesian Healthcare, because between what Kelly put together and what they put together, it's really resulted in a special kit that helps children not only talk about any situation that makes them feel uncomfortable, anything. And there's so much right now. Kids are feeling uncomfortable and they don't know how to verbalize it. We don't know how to verbalize it. So really at the root of dealing with sexual abuse, you have to get all the way back to the very beginning and helping us develop those protective behaviors to avoid that. And that's really where we took the angle.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Andrea. That's awesome. I love that museum, just so you're aware. We visit quite often with not just with my son, but people kind of visit. We take them there just to have fun. I'm glad we have a resource like that. But you kind of hit on on Inspire ASTOP, right? So you think about ASTOP, we need staff to ensure the topics are rolled out in a way that would be sensitive yet effective to the needs of young children. Kelly, now that you have heard why the behind the project, can you tell us a little bit more about the collaboration with ASTOP and what that looks like moving forward?
Absolutely. So we had the opportunity to work with ASTOP to develop these concepts and really make sure that it was age appropriate and that we were hitting on the things that we know and they most definitely know were important to structuring this inherent base knowledge that Andrea was talking about. So we had some great talks with them about what they naturally do in our community, usually typically in more of school environment. And now that the school environment is a little topsy-turvy because of the pandemic, you know, we were looking to step in and figure out how we could continue to deliver these messages to our community, even though our school environment, it doesn't look like it always has in the past. And then we also, however, we're looking, you know, a lot of our audience is the prior to school age students or children. So how can we even further boil that message down to its most basic form that we can approach it in some of the youngest members of our community? So the conversations with ASTOP were really meaningful, taking what they already have it and just kind of morphing it into this kit idea. And they brought up the Rainbow Fish book, which is a tool that they use to talk about friends and to talk about sharing and to talk about people and safety and the safe people in your lives. And taking that book and kind of just digesting it to help structure the protective behaviors language. So what we did then was developed this, supplemental coloring book, being a really great hands-on format for the kiddos. And then we took the protective behaviors that they already talk about and digested it into these 5 protective behaviors into a coloring book type activity with individual activities that talk about all of these important concepts and really drive home the message of what protective behaviors are in an age-appropriate, digestible format for these kiddos that can then, you know, have the coloring book, have the actual Rainbow Fish book, and make those connections in a way that will stick with them.
Kelly, I love that. Thanks for going through that. There's a few things that jump out. One is the partnership. It's so great to know that there are so many knowledgeable people in our community and so many organizations that are willing to partner to do what's best for our kids in our community. And the other thing that jumps out is that this is a tough conversation to have. And Andrea, when you look at how you train your staff and the environment that you want to have at the museum, obviously it's a place to come and learn and have fun, but it's also a place where you want to promote safety and you want to have your employees trained in a way where they can recognize what needs to happen in order to provide that safe environment. So last week, we actually talked to our local CPS workers about the prevalence of child abuse and neglect in Fond du Lac. Can you just talk a little bit about maybe things you have in place or trainings that you do at the Children's Museum for your employees to be able to provide that environment?
That's an excellent question, Erin, but I think it also even broader, you know, we look at ourselves as an organization that supports educational, social, emotional, and physical development. And from an educational perspective, it's so easy for us all to understand what's the framework of that. Kids learn their ABCs, then they learn their 1, 2, 3s, right? And they build off of that. So what we're trying to do is create all of these tools and share them broadly with the community, and, you know, and starting with our parents, but also with our community partners, to not only support the educational development of children, but also the emotional development and the social development. For instance, our recent Tashi Delay initiative was all about honoring the greatness, the unique differences about one another. Well, if we are constantly talking about that with our children from the time they're little to the time they're big, saying what's the same about us, saying what's different about us, and celebrating those differences. If we're doing those with little ones who actually naturally do that, we as grown-ups forget how to do that, right? But if we're the place that's constantly preaching that, if we're the place that's constantly giving them outlets to connect with their feelings, their thoughts, how did that make you feel? You know, asking kids questions, you know, not just teaching them a science experiment, right? But then our staff going even further, talking to them, oh, how did you feel when you saw the elephant toothpaste explode, right? So all of those conversations that we want to have. But what I also look at too is, you know, these are all building blocks that we want to give to our children, not only our own children, but children in the community, so that when in their lives, and everyone in their lives is going to have some challenging situation that they have to deal with at some point, we're all going to have them. I mean, we can't protect our kids from not having them. But what we want to do is have those beautiful relationships with our children. You know, KJ, you're developing this beautiful relationship with your son right now. All of the things that you're doing right now, when you're playing ball with him in the backyard, that is all going to help someday when he has something really difficult in his life he's dealing with. You are going to be one of those 5 people in his life. And part of this Friends, Fish, and Feelings helps you identify those 5. But it's also not only helping the kids identify it, but it's also encouraging kids to be that person for someone else. So we're really, really focused on relationships here, Erin. I mean, at the root of what we do, we're focused on our relationships, parent-child, nurturing that relationships, our relationships with the community. And that is one of the biggest elements of training that we give our staffs, helping people feel safe, have those great relationships. And it starts with something so fun and playful. And that's why it's so easy for us to do this. I was saying to Maria, the first AIDS exhibit, the first time that there was an exhibit on AIDS was done at a children's museum. It was based on Ryan White. So Ryan White, you know, was it back in the 70s when he got AIDS from a blood transfusion, and people treated him really, he just wanted to be a kid. He just wanted to have a normal life. And people treated him, they thought like walking past him, they could get AIDS from him. So they literally took that very challenging, socially sensitive topic and put it into a children's museum exhibit. And so that's what we're trying to do with these programs. So museums have exhibits, great fun places to play, and then we have these programs as well. They're 2 great mechanisms. I mean, how cool would it be someday if we could develop some sort of a really neat exhibit on this, right? So, but it really needs to be part of the culture. And what the Children's Museum tries to represent for this community is how important it is to have those healthy adult-child relationships, and how the parent is really that primary source of learning. So if the parent is really that primary source in that child's life, from education to social to emotional, just think about the potential. So we just really are
definitely
trying to engage. That's what we try to train everybody to do, like just really, really embrace that.
Yeah. That's just crazy. Like everything you just said, I'm thinking about Nathaniel's and running through my head. I'm like, all right, she talking about KJ playing ball in the backyard. We definitely did that yesterday. We were out there for about 2 hours trying to, you know, get him to hit the ball correctly and just doing some of that little stuff. And like the museum teaches some of the same things you don't realize when you go to a museum. It's so much fun to go there and watch him just run around and just like point at things and me be the person and like, oh, this is that, and try to get him to like say it backward to me and like, hey, boat, we were sitting in a boat, or we went down the slide, or this is, you know, so stuff like that is magical. That's the fun part. I think that's the part where museums are not boring. I will repeat that, everyone, that museums are not boring. Trust me, when I tell you this, I was that person that thought they were boring, but then when you go to kids museums, you realize how fun they are. So one, if you're in the Fond du Lac area, please check out the Children's Museum, stop by, it's super fun, you have a lot of fun. But that brings us to the next point. Kelly, like, we got kit components, you guys got all types of stuff. Like, let's get to the fun stuff. Let's get to the point where like the kids are having fun, like you guys got different things. Kind of give us some of the design terms and tools that you use for like awareness so that we all understand that part.
Sounds great. Yeah. So, I mean, within the museum space, we've got all sorts of different fun and awareness pieces, and we're so excited to be welcoming families back now. We know they need it so much, and everyone has just been so excited and joyful to be back in this space. So we're really excited about that. And part of this kit pickup opportunity is really inviting the families to come back. You know, like we were closed for quite a while, and you know, a lot of people were in a routine of visiting us maybe like every Tuesday or something like that in the pandemic, you know, not just for us, but for a lot of businesses and for a lot of just parts of normal life were really uprooted. And so we love the opportunity to invite families back, to get back into that routine. So we've got kit pickup days throughout the weekend, on the weekends as well. So we're just really excited for the opportunity to invite them back. And it's really a great, you know, this kit in particular is really great talking points.
Show us. We want to see it.
So it's been really great to hand it out and welcome people in and really talk about some of the great things that you know, not only we've been doing, but also that we've been able to partner with because of this. So we've got our friends Fish and Feelings. And we've got the beautiful little rainbow fish with all his shiny little scales. And the most glamorous part of the kit is these books. These books are just gorgeous. They've got the iridescent scales on it, which if you're familiar with the book, the book is all about his scales and sharing the scales. So that's just so pretty. We also have the full edition of the board book. So we really wanted to be able to deliver this message to whomever was ready to receive it. So we did purchase both types of books. And we kind of are distributing the board book to the younger audience, more of the pre-reading age. And then, you know, when we have a family come in that's got a first grader, second grader, you know, someone that's more confident with reading, we send home the full edition of the book in hopes that it helps to encourage independent reading and, you know, being able to read through the story and even read to some of their younger kiddos and parents and everything as well. So that's really been the most glamorous part of the kit, is that beautiful book. But then we also have a hands-on art activity. So this is the weaving kit. It's of course the rainbow fish and instructions on how to do it. And this is really great for promoting more of like the fine motor skills of the weaving and the gluing. And my son had fun gluing on the eyeball 4 different times because it kept falling off. So kids love art activities. So we wanted to include something like that. And so the rainbow fish weaving kit goes home with every child as well that picks up a kit. And with the rainbow fish weaving kit, we also include a coloring book per child. And I know we kind of looked at this already, but I did sit down and color my coloring book. And let me tell you, even as an adult, it was so therapeutic. And these activities, yes, they're boiled down and geared for children, but as an adult, I was learning too. I was learning right along with as we were developing it. So definitely lessons that we can use throughout our lives. So we've just got the breakdown of the 5 different protective behaviors in our coloring book. And then last but not least, we also have resources for the adults, because we recognize that some adults may not understand or have any prior knowledge of what protective behaviors are or what that means. So ASTOP provided us with these booklets, which members of our community may already recognize from having seen them from their kiddos. They may have brought them home from school. This is a parent book that kind of boils the message down in a different way, but it's got some great talking points and activities as well. So this goes home for each of the parents that come and pick up an activity. And then we also have an ASTOP brochure. Some people may not know what this great resource is in our community. So it was a great opportunity to increase awareness about that as well. And last but not least, we have an ASTOP pencil as well, because we love pencils. So that's the breakdown of the kit and what we are distributing. And so far, they have been so well received. We've gotten lots of great feedback about the distribution, and it's felt really great to get these into the hands of our community.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. That looks amazing. Andrea, you gave a little excitement fingers talking when Kelly was mentioning that the museum is open and that people can finally come and be back in the space that's so important. Can you just tell us a little bit about what, if people are excited and they saw this today and they want to come and get their kid and get back into the museum, what can they expect at the museum post kind of pandemic hopefully post-pandemic world?
Well, we're in right now what's called our welcome back period. So from now until June 13th, we're using a reservation system. So you do have to go online and book a reservation. I'm really proud to say after 4 weekends of this, we're only open on the weekends right now. During the week, our building is being utilized by the Treffert Way Charter School, which has been an amazing partnership throughout the pandemic. But on the weekends, we're using a reservation system. I'm very proud to share that we survey families after they leave, because our priority was to welcome families back after this extended closure and to really do it in a way that would make them feel comfortable and safe, because their little ones are precious and you know, and they want to protect them. And 100% of the people that have filled out our survey, and everyone says they feel safe. So that's really great. We are holding capacity to 25% of the building. We're still requiring masks. We think it's important to be consistent with what the school district is doing. I think what you can see in a lot of our conversation today is we recognize that we can't make a difference alone. I mean, we work so closely with so many other organizations, ASTOP, Agnesian Healthcare, you guys, the school districts, the parents. We have to work together to raise kids and to support kids. And right now, you know, it's hard enough for me to go into one place versus another place and not know what the policies are. And that's frustrating. So we thought, you know, we're gonna do what we think is best for the kids right now. And we're gonna be consistent with what the schools are doing. So we are being consistent with our masking policies. In what you're seeing in the school districts right now. So, but the reason why I did this is because it's hands-on and it's the community coming back together again. There's so much that we missed in the last year by you know, literally talking to computer screens or watching so much in computer screens, and that's really challenging for children. Children need hands-on learning. I mean, that's how they thrive, and so we're just really excited to be back open, to be giving them that. The kits that Kelly just took you through, there is so much packed into those kits, from messaging for Fond du Lac Says No More to literacy to hands-on to, I mean, so we just chucked it all in there and packed it in there. So thank you all for helping us do that. It was really fun to pull this together. It was a little scary at first, right? We were hitting on a topic that we certainly knew we couldn't do alone, but we certainly knew that we had to be part of the systematic thinking to address what you guys have led in our community with the Fond du Lac Says No More. So thanks for inviting us in. And I, encourage all of our listeners to think of how can we all be part of this systematic change, because it's not going to happen with just one of us. It's not going to happen with one kit, with one family, with one organization. It's really got to be something that we work into our culture, and we say where our tolerance is, and it's got to be loud and proud.
So. Wow, I'm starting to get a little teary right now, which doesn't take much for me, but when I saw the kits, you texted me in advance, Andrea, and when I saw it live out on social media, I honestly teared up over that. Specifically because it's accomplishing exactly what you just mentioned. Like the Women's Fund had some fundamental partners when we kicked off Fond du Lac Says No More back in 2017. But our goal was always to bring more people in and, join hands and make sure that we are really looking at systemic change, right? Because that's what our role as Women's Fund is to look at issues that impact women and girls in a way that is more prevalent. And we all know that while sexual abuse occurs for boys and men, it's much more prevalent for girls and women. And so, that topic in and of itself, just to look at that, and then have partners like the Children's Museum recognizing how important it is to get that message out to families. It opens my heart. It makes me so, so happy. So thank you for that, recognizing that. And then also, that rainbow fish. Oh my God, I love that book. Like when you talked about the little glittery, like there's only one little glittery fin like in each thing. And I remember reading that to my girls. My girls are 20 and just turned 16 yesterday. And, you know, we just had so much fun with that book because, you know, they like to, well, I mean, my girls have always been on the princess and glitter and, you know, dance girls, whatever. And I know not all girls are like that, but they were. So Rainbow Fish was right up their alley in terms of let's find the glittery scale. And you know, they really embraced that message, I think, a lot more because it was such an engaging book. So I was excited about that too. So thank you both for the work that you've put in. Thank you for everything that you've endured as a nonprofit agency who is, you know, has a model of hands-on, and with COVID just had to reimagine what that looked like. So I'm excited for you to be opening up once again too. We're excited too, because we're going to go forward with our Power of the Purse event in June, and that's going to be in person too. So we know what your feeling is as far as, yay, things are finally, you know, getting a little bit back to a place where we all can engage, because it's so important to have that human contact. So thank you for everything that you guys are doing. And was there any last thoughts you wanted to add to the conversation? Anything more we may not have covered here today?
Yeah, I will quickly add, because Kyle can relate to this. So I have 3 boys and a girl, and my 3 boys are older, like your 2 daughters are. And the Rainbow Fish was a big book around our house too. Awesome. But when ASTOP actually recommended that that's where we start with this program, they recommended that we use that for the platform. And at first, you know, in knowing what I knew about the book, I was having a hard time making the connection. But then when you go through the materials about protective behaviors and think about that book, and it really has so many opportunities throughout the book to talk about feelings, whether it was the scary octopus in the corner, and all of a sudden it goes, oh, I can talk about being scared with my kid, you know, whether it was the feeling of, I don't know if I want to share, you know, to that feeling of, okay, that felt really good when I did, to I can take care of somebody else. Those are all such great feelings. And again, not only to what happens when we're in a situation of not being safe, but how can we inspire children to be that person that they do go to, that someone else goes to? Be that person that's always there for someone else. So not only, you know, what you can do to make yourself safe, but what can you do to be that person for someone else? And that's why, again, I just love all the parallels that we've pulled out of this program together. So, and my last thought, Kelly and I will be at your Power of the Purse. So we're excited. We've been vaccinated. We're still being safe around here, but we feel really, really good. So we will be there.
Awesome. Good. Awesome. Well, you know, I'm definitely not anyone that shies away from emotion, and I've tried to instill that in my girls too. And I believe that when we as a society can come together and embrace the idea that emotion, whether it's a positive or a negative, learning how to cope and get through that is the way that we will solve so many problems. So with that, so ends this edition of Project Table Talk. Thank you to our guests, Kelly and Andrea from the Children's Museum, as well as all of you who are tuning in today for this important message. We'll talk and see you again at 1 o'clock on Thursday, May 13th. Our guests for that program will be ARC of Fond du Lac, another one of our 2021 grantees, who will tell us about an exciting educational program they are bringing to their clients, their client families, and the community in May. So we hope to see you back for that. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.